Why is it that we only know about our migration, but we never know about where we came from? How can people be migrating, but they never know where they migrated from? How come they say Sumerian language has no known pair? That's why it was hard to translate. There are no known languages that are similar, but we have similar names in our society today, like Adapa, like Gudie, like Banda, like Emeka, like Apalu. These are all names that were stated in the Sumerian tablets, and you are telling me they are no known pairs. They are no known pairs because they don't want you to know that you were the originator of civilization. Watch this video to the end and pay close attention to the features of the statues in this video. You will see the cathedral in Rome, all the statues that look like European faces. Look at the statues very well whilst the video goes and tell me these are not Africans that made this.
They did it again. They scanned the most impossible temple in the world to prove that big archaeology knows absolutely nothing, uncovering unexplainable tool marks in some of the hardest natural rock known to man that we can't even achieve with our modern tools today. If you thought the pyramids were impressive, this is about to run circles around you. This is Kailasa Temple in India, and it wasn't even built. It was carved out of the side of a mountain. This entire temple is essentially one solid piece of rock that they worked around to create a functional monolithic complex with the most detail in anything you've ever seen, along with unique acoustic properties where the slightest hum reverberates into a body vibrating chant. Thought to be intended for sound healing purposes, sorta like an ancient hospital, or possibly even the construction method used to build this, as well as functioning drainage and carefully engineered ventilation systems, which were all carefully thought out as part of the original design, not something they just added on after. Mathematically and artistically perfect pillars that stand over 100 feet tall that they would have had to dig around to create, all in an area as big as a football field, going 100 feet straight down at its deepest point. Mind you, they did this all as a single piece of rock carved into a mountain, meaning there was no room for error. Just like sculpting a statue out of marble, if they messed up, they'd have to start all over again, removing an estimated total 400,000 tons of rock, more than the entire weight of the Empire State Building, which no one can explain because all of that rock just disappeared. We have no idea where they put it, and there are no traces of it anywhere. 400,000 tons is a lot of rock to just go missing. This is just one of many among India's mysterious Ellora caves, over 30 temples, all of which were carved into the side of the mountain. What makes Kailasa different from the rest was that it was built from the top down, defying all rules of conventional architecture. Simply put, the way this temple was built is, by every sense of the word, unexplainable. Historians will tell you it was built sometime around 756 to 773 AD, but as always, that's just an estimate. In fact, it's a terrible estimate, even less accurate than the timeline of the pyramids, as the main source of dating for this temple were land grants. Exactly 2 land grants, inscribed into copper plates that were found hundreds of miles away. These copper plates acted as official documents of legal ownership deeds back in their day, and all these plates did was glaze their king Krishna I for commissioning the construction of the temple, which would have dated it sometime around the 8th century AD. But the plates also contain inscriptions that boast the temple was so breathtaking that even the gods flying overhead stopped in their celestial chariots to admire it. Gods flying overhead? Celestial chariots? I wonder what they were referring to over here. And according to similar legends, this temple was built in just 1 week. But no, that part was just made up. Yet the actual dates on the copper plates, yeah, those were real. Can you see how this gets a little questionable? Which is why it's widely considered among the open-minded that this temple was built a lot longer ago using technology that surpasses ours today. Well, that's because the most impressive part is that this temple is made of basalt, hardened lava, which, if you didn't know, is hard as a motherfucker, ranking between a 6-7 on the Mohs scale of hardness, making it as hard as granite, just as unexplainable as what the ancient Egyptians quarried. They even ran an experiment using modern steel pickaxes on the basalt to see how much rock they can remove in 10 minutes. They timed it, and the results showed that you would have to swing away at it for 3 years straight just to remove a cubic meter of it. Officially, it's said this temple took 18 years to build. At 400,000 tons of rock, that would require 5 tons of rock removed per hour, assuming 12-hour shifts for 18 years straight. 5 tons of rock per hour. Modern steel pickaxes have been shown to remove a cubic meter, which is about 3 tons, in 3 years. Can you see how those numbers just don't add up, like, at all? And given the tight football field-sized area they were confined to working within, they were also limited to how many people can work on this at once. So you can't just say, oh, they had hundreds of thousands of slaves working on this. That would be physically impossible. To put it into perspective, in the 1600s, Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, definitely butchered that, commanded an army of 1,000 workers to destroy Kailasa Temple as a sort of cultural cleansing of that area after he conquered it. After 3 years of this army of 1,000 workers hacking away at it with steel tools, their mission failed because of how strong the rock was, so they called it off. They did a bit of damage to the statues and scratched off some details, but proved how hard this temple is to even chip, let alone carve out of a mountain from scratch. Now, new investigations revealed some interesting tool marks throughout the temple, with consistent grooves over an inch deep into the rock, meaning a lot of force was involved. Today, we would need industrial-grade hydraulic machines to achieve anything close to this in basalt rock. But the thing is, these tool marks are found in the most narrow and cramped hallways all throughout Kailasa. Corridors barely big enough for a person to pass through, let alone any tools or machines required for the colossal amount of force involved to make these grooves. How on earth did they fit equipment or techniques with such immense power into these tiny areas? And these tools also couldn't just be massive blasters that just deal an insane amount of force. They had to be very precise too, with the amount of detail they carved into the basalt being nothing short of mind-blowing. Artistic precision like this in a material as hard as basalt would require diamond-tipped, high-powered drill bits to achieve today, yet they did it over 1,000 years ago with chisels and hammers. Now, in Hindu mythology, they claim this temple was built by a deity called Vishwakarma, the divine architect, who, according to legend, was able to manipulate and work with solar radiance, and concentrated into divine instruments that they used for the temple's construction. Which, I don't know about you, but concentrated solar radiance sounds a lot like laser technology to me. Ancient lasers, implying that this is how they built the Great Kailasa Temple in ancient India, using forgotten knowledge from previous civilizations, or possibly even alien technology they attributed to their gods from above, which honestly makes more sense than the poor excuse of an explanation modern archaeology gives it. But who knows, maybe they're right. Use that brain of yours and make your own conclusion. Or don't and just blindly believe what Google tells you, you fucking debunkers. Love you guys.
How did we even know that there was inhabitable land here? The land that no one was inhabiting, that we could come and take possession of, both the Akans and both the Ewes. Look at this. Look at that. Is it natural? Have you seen the Kailasa Temple? Yeah. Very complicated. It looks like it was 3D printed. Definitely, that's what I'm seeing. No one can tell me different. And the shocking part is, they say it was built in 1 week. Archaeologists will say 18 years, no matter. All that building, not a single stone remained around. Where did the stones go? We knew about this land here in Africa, this part of West Africa, because this was our dumping ground. This is where we used to dump our construction debris from ancient Egypt to Kailasa temples. All this were done by Africans. And the debris are what we see in Krobo Hills, Shire Hills, and all these those hills over there, those mounds, I don't call them hills, mounds that are sitting there that we are breaking. If you look everywhere from 3,000 years BC, before Christ, you see there was a thriving civilization, not a civilization that was rising, but a civilization that had already reached its peak. And when you go back into history, you see so many of them, and they were led by blacks. That's why the system that we do not want us to know. For example, look at the Moorish Empire. That one, they cannot hide it because it was way recently. One that was way further, the Tartarian Empire. What happened to them? Today they will say the Tartarian Empire never existed. But on a lot of ancient maps, we see Tartarian Empire boldly written there all over Asia and Europe. So what? The ancients were liars. History 101, I'm teaching my African people. We were the ones that originated civilization. We were the ones that built Mesopotamia. We were the ones that wrote the Sumerian language. We are the originals. I hope this video has opened your eyes to seeing why we do not know where we actually began our migration. Don't forget to play with the buttons over here and open your eye to see that we never learned from the whites. No, they learned from us, and they made us forget. So we are not a developing nation and a developing continent. No, we are not. We are a continent that has to remember and recover. After our recovery, we can never be held down again. Catch you in the next one. Peace.